I'm Marie Elizabeth Molly, and this is Relationship Alchemy. And today we're going to be talking about sacred partnership with Alex and Allyson Grey. Alex Grey has authored 5 books, including 3 monographs, has had countless exhibitions and extensive reproductions and articles about his artwork. His speaking appearances, including a popular TED Talk and his work with the rock band Tool on 3 albums, including stage sets, animations, and Grammy Award-winning album art, has made Alex Grey a renowned figure in contemporary art. Allyson is a painter and social sculptor. Educated at Tufts University, Allyson has long been an art educator, editor, art events creator, muse to artists, and the creative and life partner of Alex Grey since meeting in art school in 1975. Together, the Greys have co-founded the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, or CoSM, as it's known for short, which is a spiritual creative retreat center outside of New York City. And we have known each other for 22 years, having met at a conference shortly after my father died. And we immediately became friends. We had this amazing conversation about death, as one does. And we became friends, and I became closely involved in a small group of people who began to help CoSM come into being. And since the first day we met, I've been inspired, blown away, touched, moved by the depth of partnership and creative partnership that Alex and Allyson have. And so I really wanted to bring them to you today as really an example of what's possible in relationship when you're creative and life partners. I'd love to start with the creation of the Sacred Mirrors, which is a series of paintings. And you always say how Allyson inspired that work. And so I'd love to start there, and then we can get into your story and we'll see where we go.
Well, you can't really start with the Sacred Mirrors without talking about when Alex and I got together, because the thing is, we met in a class in art school called Conceptual Performance Mixed Media. And so we were performance artists and mixed media artists, conceptual artists, and painters, the both of us. So, but it was an art school, and Alex took LSD in my apartment at a party I was giving. And we never left. We basically, the truth is, he had his first God contact there.
Yeah.
And I had this experience 3 years earlier in 1971, where after tripping for numerous years, I encountered God as secret writing. But I had kind of kept it secret in my artwork from school, and I shared it with him, and he shared his God contact that he had just had in my apartment. We weren't really dating or anything when he came to this party, but we just got together to talk about this psychedelic, mystical experience. Because that I had given up on dating. And basically was working on my art. And
as you might know, I was suicidally depressed, and so had basically challenged God to show me a sign that I shouldn't exit life at this point. And so basically within that day, I'd taken acid, met God, and then in the flesh, it's kind of like, yeah, that wasn't just an inner world experience. It's possible to have a channel of infinite love in the physical domain, in this bond with another. So you share that spacious, infinite source and if you glimpse it with each other, then you say, yeah, it wasn't fake. And, it's like, so I think that, acid helped us to see a field of love that was beyond both of us, that we both could be like expressions of for each other in life,
and that's something you've cultivated, right? It sounds like that helped sort of open the door to the seeing, but then the practice of that is something that you both have been doing ever since.
Oh, forever. Absolutely. I mean, the practice of an enduring relationship goes on and on, right?
Goes on and on. It's an ongoing, right? Goes way beyond that first spark,
But we started living together like right after that. And then to get right on to the sacred mirrors, we were doing a performance together called Life Energy, where Alex did his first lecture ever on life energy at this performance. It was a multimedia kind of performance. We did group exercises, but also within this performance, we did several different things. But there were these charts that Alex made. They were ink drawings. One was of the nervous system, life size. It was just in ink. And the other one was the acupuncture meridians, points, and we call it the etheric body, all that was part of this second. It's like the drawing that started the psychic energy system.
Exactly. Yeah. Which
right.
is the first painting I've resonated with was that psychic energy one.
And we asked people, we invited people to stand in the anatomical position in front of it. It's about 6 feet back. And there's a little sign and reflect on your systems like a healing tool kind of thing. And and then it was on our way home from that performance.
Yeah, Allyson and I both noticed that the kind of the best thing about the performance were the charts. It's basically what Allyson said,
Well, I thought everything. I thought your lecture on life energy. We still use parts of that.
Well,
you still use some of that.
Well, we do talk about the light body. And so there were people that Alex researched as far back as that, different, Wilhelm Reich and the orgone energy and Robert Becker and his, electromagnetic forces,
psychoenergetics. There's all kinds of things, but of course, going way back, to animal magnetism and all the odic force and all the strange names that people have given to the, what the acupuncture practices called the chi or ki life energy, So in the West, that isn't something that is a basis of medicine at all, And as someone who's also wise in those ways yourself, there's a disjuncture about our understanding about the nature of consciousness and the nature of the physical body and the subtle body. And so the relatedness of how consciousness, the physical body, and the sense of self arises, I wanted to start to make art about consciousness, And so anyway, the chart was a way to just start to grapple with that graphically. And Allyson thought, that's a great template for a series of paintings. And so introduced that idea. And then later in the year, as I was already working on these things, she said, I know what they're named. The sacred mirrors. I just remember her coming in one day, opening the door like Kramer, or something. I know what they're called, Alex. Sacred mirrors,
I can see that.
Yeah.
It has something to do with, if you want to go back to relationships for a second, it has something to do with seeing through the eyes of your partner, or at least attempting to. I mean, having that intention. And of course, they have to say whether that's so or not. It's up to them to say whether that's so or not. But for me, well, right away when we started living together in 1975, we were sharing a studio. So we didn't have a wall between us, and we could have, hidden if we wanted to, but we didn't. We basically liked to use a lot of the space for gallery and then work together in one area. And it was something that habit we started then that we have continued for 46 years. Even though we have two studios, we work in one studio and we use the other studio. We call it, for many, many things. So in any case, that is something that we started to do, was to, collaborate, but have separate work as well. We always had our own art and our own paintings, and then we also collaborated in this, performative way, and installations and performances and things like that. And some of them were more Alex's, thoughts, and some of them included more of my thoughts. But we were always working on doing them together. And so I think that having common projects has been like an incredible. I mean, you're finding this with your beloved as well.
It's huge. I mean, it's part of the glue, right?
Yeah.
I want to come back to, you said so beautifully about the sacred mirrors, but also really about partnership. This idea of seeing the mirror, being the mirror for the other person, them being the mirror for you. And I want to unfold that a bit more, because I find what happens as a default so often in relationships is we start mirroring the worst in each other, or reflecting back the worst in each other. And so, but what I see so much in the two of you is that you're constantly reflecting that God self back to each other, the creator, the artist, the community builder, the parent, right? When you have a child, so is that a conscious choice to reflect back those aspects, or is that something that flows naturally for you?
You want to go ahead with that one? I have my answers, but I think you probably do too.
Well, look, I think that we struggle too. There isn't any relationship that I've ever known of that doesn't, have its own, kind of the overarching, I think program for our relationship, though, is that we're both committed to it working. Neither of us are leaving. We're both fated to each other, and we're going to work it out. So that's the override program, And if you have to take a time out and settle back to remember that,
yes,
deep program, it's like some really stupid skirmish came up because you're projecting still the shadow of your brother onto your lover. Why are you doing that? Oh my God. It's like, it's like, maybe it's obvious in retrospect, but it's in the heat of the moment, you're reactive instead of take a pause. Why did that trigger you? This is the transformative engine at work in a relationship. When you get triggered, that's your cue.
Yeah, I like to relate it when I was really younger, like in elementary school, or even younger. I get mad at my mother, or I would get mad at my teacher. Sometimes you just get mad at your teacher. You caught you at something and you're so mad at them, and you get mad at your mother because she corrected you in some way that, you really hurt your feelings or whatever. And you know that you can't stay mad at them. You can't. They're always going to be your mother. And they're for the year, they're always going to be your teacher. You're going to have to keep going back to them every day. So you can't stay mad at them. And I remember feeling that very early, and I feel that about Alex. Of course, I don't even know if I think we struggle, but I guess you could call it that. We have differences, and we are in business together, and we share a studio. And I even commented on Alex's art, and he comments on my individual art. So we may have differences in all kinds of ways. We have differences, different habits, different things that we like and don't like. So all of this is all part of our personal transformative path. If we want to become a better person, if that's really what we want out of our life, is to, become a better person, which is, I think, a great, thing to look forward to. we will be better if we have a sacred mirror who doesn't just reflect our beauty, but that's narcissistic, would reflect also all of the warts and all, wrinkles, and as you get fat and flabby, or you haven't been exercising enough, or you've been eating too much, it reflects your mirror reflects that back on you too, so you don't always like what it reflects on you, but you get improved from it, right?
Well, it sounds like that common commitment. It's like the commitment to the mirror, or the commitment, I like to talk about in relationship there being the third, or what I call the union. So there's each of you, but then there's your union, and the depth of your commitment to the union is such that you each are willing to work on your shit, in service to the union.
Right.
Yeah.
In service to the benefit of all sentient beings, ultimately.
Exactly. Right. And that's the larger union, right?
Yes,
Where
yes.
your union is in service to something greater. And I wanted to talk about that because it was a very deliberate choice you made 20 something years ago to open your home to create community. You know, you could have stayed artists in the silo and just selling your work off individually to people and living like that, but you made a deliberate choice to create a chapel out of the sacred mirrors and subsequent paintings, to open your home, to create community, to make a gathering place. I'd love to talk about that aspect of your partnership too, because I think that's a way that really benefits the world.
The Almighty made that choice. I feel. I mean, I always remember, Ram Dass would always say, "It's all, all Maharaji." So, but I think it's definitely the Almighty, because once we had decided we were going to create the sacred mirrors were a major installation. Now, seeing through Alex's eyes, I knew that he had gotten an A++ on his anatomy final. So I knew that he was capable of doing something like that. He did these charts, and I knew that was something that he could do. And it was an incredible journey, and it took 10 years of painting. But at the minute, practically, they weren't even quite finished yet, because they really ended in 1989 after Xena was born, and Alex did the goddess to honor the divine feminine. You see, he couldn't have the sacred mirrors without the goddess. But in 1985, we took MDMA after saving the sacred mirrors. You see, that sacred mirrors could have been sold off one at a time. But Alex had gifted Psychic Energy System to me. And that was the only one that this guy really wanted. And he would pay for the entire series just to have that one.
Wow.
And we had a pneumothorax over here. At the moment he heard about it, his lung burst. He fell on the floor.
Well, we were with Marshall.
Yeah,
Frankel.
I figured it was Marshall. Yeah,
that's right. July 4th, 1985, and he wanted to buy the sacred mirrors, and we thought, "Holy shit, that's great." Okay, and as soon as we had that, I had a lung collapse. It was like.
So we went to bed for a few days, but he had given us our first MDMA because he was taking it in psychotherapy when it was still legal. So he gave us a couple of these tabs of MDMA, and 3 days later or so, 4 days later, we had this journey where we realized in very real terms that if we were going to create the sacred mirrors as an installation, which was our 10 years ago. Well, not 10. At that point, it was about 8 years ago or something. Their instinct was to make an installation of this, and we had gone around and looked at the cycloramas and things like this, and places where we could exhibit, all the sacred mirrors and around, and then this guy was going to buy them all and put them all into storage and put one out in his lobby or something. So we under the
but
influence,
we had agreed to do it.
We had agreed. We signed a contract even.
Wow. Oh my God. Oh no.
But he pulled it. We pulled out of it like the following week. We knew that if we were going to make this into something that we couldn't, we wouldn't be fulfilling the mission that we had, just intuited in 1978 to create them. And so it was like immediately we started designing. Alex started designing, and then we started making the 21 frames, which made them even more of a responsibility, to take care of. They had their own 11-foot doorway that we built for them, for in and out of exhibitions and whatever, until such time as they were installed in Manhattan for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then here, for now, they're here. So they're back on view.
I just wanted to say thank you for being part of the prayer committee.
Oh, yes.
Which Alex Stark envisioned, because he knew we were talking about this chapel idea, where are we going to do it, and it's like, and he'd been hearing it for years. And then he thought, like, you really need the community of people, who wants to, if it's a viable thing, you'll find out. if let's hold full moon ceremonies and open it up to the community, see who's willing to do it. That ultimately became the thing. From the prayer committee, we decided that that was going to be it. But before it was a prayer committee, we thought maybe we'd pray together, and that at least
For what? What were we praying for?
For the creation of the chapel of Sacred Mary.
Why we had a prayer
it's like,
committee.
how are we going to do it? We have no idea.
No idea. Well, and I remember you convened a dinner of friends, donors, fellow artists, spiritual folks, just teachers. Alex was there. And I remember people kind of raising their hands for different aspects of the project, what their own skills would have them be able to do. And I remember sitting there at the dinner like, well, I don't know how to do anything. I guess I can pray, and so I joined the prayer committee because I just thought that's, and we would convene these full moon gatherings and pray together. And Alex would make a despacho, like a shamanic despacho that he would then dispatch after the full moon. And over time, and other people pitched in, people came in with sculpture skills, with all sorts of skills to help. And it began to grow a community.
Yes,
and I think it's really a testament to the power of not only your vision, but also your willingness, again, to surrender to the larger thing. Maybe against personal preferences,
Well, that's why I say it was the Almighty, because as soon as you make that one trigger decision, things start to expand into things that you need to take care of and you have responsibility over. So it's been our life work. And, it was Bex Frankel Wilkinson that got us to be a nonprofit organization in 1996. Yes. It took all the way till then we didn't know what we were going to be. We wanted to just build a temple, but then it was, become a nonprofit organization, and she could help us and other people could help us. And then becoming a church in 2008, that just evolved because never thinking that that's what we were going for, but realizing along the way that community had gathered around this mission to build a temple. And who does build a temple, but a religious or sacred organization of like-minded, principle-centered, and in our case, creative people, because we're all about it being an art church. So,
well, I love how you call it an art church.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
definitely is. Everybody here is an artist of so many different varieties.
Yeah. And we need spaces to gather.
That's right.
Art can be such a solitary endeavor. I mean, my art is primarily writing, also photography, but I like to photograph underwater creatures who don't talk. So it's not solitary, that's interactive, but the writing piece is pretty solitary. So to have a place to be able to gather around creativity, around bringing a vision into form, which is what both of you do so beautifully with your art. And that it's such a gift that you give.
I think your art also, Marie Elizabeth, is counseling people about relationships, though. Mm-hmm. You are very artistic in doing that. I mean,
That's true.
Your videos are very artistic, and your outreach and your workshops and your teaching, you're a teacher, mm-hmm. you're a writer, all of those things go into that. That's something that, lights you up. I could see it on your face.
It's true. It does. I love it. Yeah. So I want to talk about the way your artwork has also woven together. So there's your partnership, and you both have very individual styles of art. And there are specific ways that you weave them together. So the chapel, as it's being built now, really contains both of your DNA very much in it. Could you say a bit about that interweaving?
You're going to say something.
Well, I mean, I remember when we had finally gotten there to Chelsea, and we had a 5-year lease. At a certain point, Allyson was still helping Zena with her career and everything, mm-hmm. and she could come in every now and then and help help us to organize and things and get priorities.
And I worked on the road
stuff like that
as much as I could.
Yeah. So I remember her saying, listen, if we're going to do this chapel thing, you better come up with an idea, about what it looks like and stuff, because I know that's important to you and things. How else are we going to sell this idea, And so like on her birthday, I think in 2007, I had this like vision of what I thought, this is it, like the main thing, and like started and drew it and things. And it's still the concept that we want to eventually build somewhere on this property. And it just catalyzed the entire movement toward this place, which was found on findthedivine.com.
It was?
Yes. So it's the entire thing is just like one synchronicity and crazy step after the other. It's kind of like God's holding the carrot out, just like, oh, wait, what's this? And it's kind of like, we just keep like lurching forward. And now, we have the sacred mirrors inside of Entheon. Entheon is getting polished and the galleries are getting completed, and it's been a long journey, but it's been the same journey, and it's taken the love of thousands of people to make it happen. And so I'm just blown away by that web of love and what it has enabled for people who had no clue how it could manifest. And you were there and know.
That's right.
Yeah.
You were.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to say that there's the piece which is the design of the we say the countenance of Entheon, which is Alex. Alex worked on that quite a bit and through many stages, and he worked with an Oscar-winning sculptor, animator,
digital sculptor,
sculptor who created the computer model. But the creation of CoSM and Entheon, I just wanted to say, my part in it, I think, comes greatly from my parents were in business together, and I had this experience of them running a girls' camp for 25 years on a large piece of property with many things going on at once. And yes, it was like 250 women and girls living in harmony in a community for like 10 solid weeks. So we did this every summer for 25 years, and
Camp Rapatak.
And so I grew up in that sort of environment of like the and I became the chairman of my prom and gave parties all through my early days. So in order to like make this, to get property, we had to find a way to support it. And CoSM has been that. We've been able to be multifaceted with our sales of imagery and beautiful icons and altar objects and things like that, and apparel and all that, to help support the building of a temple. Because even though there are people that are incredibly generous, like Maria Elizabeth and Bex, who've really helped us over the years, and David Bronner, and some wonderful people who've helped us and continue to and are committed to what we're doing, it really has been, make the money, and we have to find the others, find the global community, which is in our mission to uplift, find them to be with us in this initiative to build a center that honors the sacred mystical experience and God contact and visionary art.
Yeah, because that's the piece that I think is such a core, crucial part of it, was when I encountered both your art, Alex's art and Allison's art. It gave form to a thing that I felt and felt in meditation and could touch, and a kind of ground of being, like a core isness that's there when we can get quiet enough to feel it. And then all of a sudden it's like, there's the literal, like the visual representation of this ineffable thing. And I was aware for me of such a presence when standing in front of the paintings. And I own a few pieces, and even now, I'll stand in front of a piece and I can feel it in my energy system. Like my body responds to this piece. There's a mirroring, there's a recognition that happens on a cellular level through this art. And I think the world needs more of that, frankly, because, we can get so stuck in our heads and we forget the deeper thing. And this is why I'm passionate about approaching relationships from the place of growth, of individual discovery, of self-discovery, of how do I touch the real through seeing the shit that's in the way of the real through the mirror of this other person. How do I have more access to this deeper consciousness through relationship? And that piece of the visionary, I would love for you to talk about, like, the importance of visionary culture, especially at a time like now.
I think that in this idea of the sacred mirror, of course, it's a wonderful metaphor, but the sacred mirrors themselves, as a series of 21 paintings, it's kind of a tomograph of the self. It's like you see a lot of different slices of states of physical and non-physical being, so I think that one of the things that visionary culture gives us is a sense of multidimensionality and a sense of connectedness, interconnectedness. The mystical experience has many characteristics, that have been noted by scientists who are studying the mystical experience. But the primary overarching thing is unity, this experience of inner and cosmic unity. And that sense of oneness is something that I think many of the visionary artists are attempting to convey. And we can see it quite often mirrored in mandalic kind of forms and things, recovery of a sense of wholeness and completeness. This is not a usual focus for art and contemporary art. Usually it's intent on, dragging out. Oh, we've gotten the ice storm. Yeah, we're in the midst of it. So, maybe it's still continuing. Yeah.
In that vein, I wanted to jump in and say that, we think of CoSM overall as a social sculpture, and we use that word, which Joseph Beuys coined, which he coined to mean art that intends social transformation. And so, if you want to take a little piece of land with a few little buildings on it and see where, you could have some social transformation happen, you can make it available to them all, to the public even. And so I think that we continue to craft ways for people to interact and on a spiritual and creative level.
Yeah, I think quite a number of people, not just the visionary artists, connect with whatever their creative path is, if it's painting, if it's poetry and things like that, to have a direct connection with creative spirit.
Yes.
You may not call it God, but other people might. It's whatever is moving through you, or that you're becoming a medium for the transmission of this imaginal flow. However you want to describe it. Nobody understands consciousness, the self, all of these great mysteries that are somehow the bedrock and foundation of our reality. So
And yet so hard to picture or touch or verbalize or whatever your medium is, right? There's always a struggle to bring that ineffable thing into form,
Exactly. Well, the thing that of course brought us together was psychedelics. And one of the striking things about psychedelics is that they're strongly visual. For the classic psychedelics are highly visual. There's a lot of information flowing through the brain. And you close your eyes and you watch an entirely new world unfold before you. And it's you have to surrender to that flow. That is information, though, and I call it art theology. That's how God informs us with a mystical experience. We get to see the infinite and see that it's not separate from us. And so when you get a glimpse of the infinite, and whether you call it sacred or God, or whether you don't use terms like that, but there's a web of connectedness. I think it's intelligent. It's like whatever name you want to give it, the visual artists who go into these psychedelic states and get, like this kind of visual knowledge, come out drawing remarkably related kinds of things, using similar kinds of cues. And so those who have been to those dimensions usually can pick out the people who are, I know where you've been. And so there's a kind of a likeness that our consciousness is recognizing in each other. And that is visionary culture. That's the value of it too, and people, for a lot of people who, or they're not in therapy and they haven't been given legal this or that, to blow their minds. It just happened at this party or something.
Right.
Who can they talk to about it?
In the car.
Gosh, this is a whole new world. But when they see visionary art, then they see, oh my God, a lot of people have seen this stuff.
Yeah. I love that you brought the word recognize, recognition, because I think that's because there is a recognition and a commonality. Not that everybody's experience is the same, but like you said, there's this flavor of like, oh, because I remember that so clearly when we met. That was like, oh, yeah, we may have gotten there different paths. Like I've never taken LSD, so but I've meditated a lot. I've done a lot of deep kind of stuff, and so there was this mutual recognition of a space that's been touched, that exists. And
that's sacred soul stuff. I know that stuff.
Well, that's the beauty of an interspiritual place of gathering.
Well, that's why your place is so important.
Exactly. It is important to have them. That's why they exist and they endure in the world everywhere you go. Is these places of powerful spiritual embodiment. They're not there for any other reason but for spiritual embodiment. And you can do all kinds of things there. And there's so many of them in the world and so many different things go on there. But I do feel that they are still important. And if you don't like the word religion, then you probably don't know what it really means, because it just means to tie back to the divine, tying you back to what your core of your being.
Yes.
And so, and the people that come from all walks of life. So you can, that's the true of most, religious centers, is that everybody has a different job. Everybody has a different kind of relationship, a different demeanor, a different set of filters through which they are dealing with their PTSD, whatever it is.
Exactly.
So all these people come together in harmony and with the core value of pure love. That's the intention, is to get there to that pure value of core love in the context of spirit, and not in the context of the bank or in the context of the concert hall or the context of the dance floor, but in the context of spirit. It can be all those things. There's lots of dances going on and parties and things like that. But yeah, so I feel like it's been the best journey ever has been for us to put all of everything to bear, toward creating a space that we will leave behind us. It's the thing about being a real church is that you leave everything.
Yeah.
So I love that. I mean, I think that's an incredible teaching.
So what's ahead for you this year? Is Entheon opening?
Well, we became during COVID at early, like the first month, we didn't miss a full moon ceremony when COVID said we couldn't assemble anymore. So March of 2020, we had our first online full moon ceremony. So we've become broadcasting central. We've been pumping out, broadcasts. We've done all full moons. We have a new moon Zoom art church for members every month, and we're teaching. We have workshops that we're just starting to do the Zoom workshop, but we've been doing the art church as a group activity for members for some time, and so broadcasting and making art and encouraging people to have beautiful objects from the CoSM shop so that we can continue to build.
Yeah.
That's
I encourage everybody to go to CoSM.org. That's COS like Sam, M, Chapel of Sacred Mirrors is what it stands for, .org, and check out the merch because it's amazing.
And our programs can be seen on YouTube at the CoSM.TV channel, CoSM.TV. That's how you get to
CoSM.TV.
Everything we're making over here for absolutely free.
And we're going to be collecting art to display in the All One gallery that is kind of
when you say collecting, I think there's double meaning.
Yeah, I guess just gathering. Some work to exhibit for a year from various artists, which has begun in things. We've got some of the classic old masters of visionary art, Ernst Fuchs, and some other wonderful artists. Amanda Sage has pledged a piece, and a number of wonderful artists will be displaying their paintings, sculpture, animation. There's a number of amazing artists now that are kind of pointing to the psychedelic experience through their computer and digital animation, which is
I like to say the visionary experience. Some of them are psychedelic and some are not. But we hope to opening Entheon is what we target for 2022, and opening means that we get a certificate of occupancy, meaning that all the things, the big and small things that we have to do to be a public space 65 miles from the New York City are done, and our town gives us a certificate of occupancy, C of O. So that's what we're waiting for before we truly open. Right now, we do give small tours for members and do that monthly. And so, and the exhibitions are filling. I mean, they're not all done, but there's much to see. So when
I was working in the psychedelic reliquary this morning. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's coming along. We got a lot of really wonderful and exotic little treasures to share.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I can't wait to come see it.
Well, I can't wait to have you.
So generously, Alex and Allyson have made available a free download of a journal that CoSM puts out. So there will be that in the show notes. And you can also go to CoSM.TV on YouTube to check out their events. You can go to CoSM.org to participate in an event. Come join a full moon gathering. Come join a workshop. And thank you both so much for being here today. And
Thank you, Lily.
Really,
It's so
just been
wonderful
such
to see you.
Such a pleasure. Yeah, it's so great to see you both too. I've missed you. It's
We
fun.
miss you too.
Yeah.
All right.
Much love.
Thanks for
Thank
keeping
you.
us and CoSM in your heart. We so
You bet.
appreciate you.
Yeah,
Love to Patrick.
I love to Zena, loved everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you. So this has been Relationship Alchemy, and remember that a great relationship starts with you.